It is impossible to fathom what Caitlin Clark and Christy Sides, the head coach, have just accomplished. After a lengthy absence, the Indiana Fever have finally competed in the postseason for the first time since 2016. This marks the conclusion of a lengthy hiatus. All things considered, the Fever finished the regular season with a record OF.500, despite suffering a heartbreaking defeat to the Washington Mystics by a score of 9-2, 9-1 in the final game of the season. Indiana demonstrated both depth and resilience throughout the game by placing a significant amount of reliance on their bench. Their season would have been the first since 2015 if they had been able to achieve the victory. Fans have been energized and hope for the franchise has been renewed as a result of the Fever's return to postseason contention. Now, let's take a look at how the Indiana Fever went from being regular season competitors to being playoff candidates. In this season's Women's National Basketball Association WNBA, Caitlin Clark has unquestionably been the driving force behind the surging attendance, soaring ticket sales, and increased emphasis on the conference. Her exceptional basketball skills have enthralled viewers and established her as a player who is not to be missed. However, despite the fact that Clark's brilliance on the court cannot be refuted, it is not going to be only down to her individual efforts that the Indiana Fever will make it to the playoffs. In order to propel the Fever into postseason contention, it will be necessary for the entire squad to work together, with contributions coming from her teammates as well as the coaching staff. Despite the fact that Clark is the star of the show, the Fever will have to fight together in order to make it to the playoffs. There are two outstanding talents on the draft that Caitlin Clark is surrounded by, and Kelsey Mitchell is the #1 selection. There have been two picks in 2018 that have been extremely helpful in molding the squad of the Indiana Fever. There is little doubt that the group has been methodically constructing itself for success over the course of the previous few years, and it appears that Clark is the last piece of the puzzle. The Fever now have the star power and chemistry necessary to make a real push for the playoffs this season, thanks to her arrival to the team. Since being selected in the 2018 draft, Kelsey Mitchell has been a scoring machine for the Indiana Fever. Over the course of the past 5 seasons, she has continuously established herself as a formidable attacking force, leading the club in scoring each time. The fact that Mitchell is only a few points behind Caitlin Clark's 17.8 points per game this season demonstrates her dependability as one of the Fever's top scoring threats. Mitchell is now averaging 17.7 points per game. On the other side of the court, the moniker Aliyah Boston is one that causes the opposing teams to feel a shiver run down their spines. Boasting a height of 6 feet 5 inches and a weight of 220 pounds, Boston is a dominant force in the paint thanks to her ability to score, rebound, and create second opportunities for her team. As a result of her averages of 13.9 points, 9.2 rebounds, and 2.8 assists per game, she is a formidable opponent on both the offensive and defensive ends of the court. In addition to Clark, Mitchell and Austin make a formidable tandem that complements each other, so creating a dynamic trio that has the potential to catapult the Fever to success in the playoffs. Please have a look at what Christy Sides has to say about their trip. What do you anticipate the Rookie of the Year to bring to the table in this situation? Compared to when you are in the lull of the regular season and a team is playing 4 games in 6 days, regardless of anything else that may be going on. On the other hand, she and her squad both profit tremendously from the fact that they received an abundance of defensive attention during the entire season. She is able to deal with it correctly. On top of that, I believe that you are going to witness something that is very different from what we witnessed when Caitlin began her professional career in Connecticut at the beginning of this regular season. Having said that, my opinion is that she is already the best player in the league, despite the fact that I believe it is simple to declare at this stage. The club that she and Indiana are going up against is Connecticut, which has an incredible amount of postseason experience and has been successful in the playoffs. And it is difficult to not see some of those tight times and think about the way Indiana snipes at the referees, appears a little rattled, and can appear a bit inexperienced. It is also difficult to not believe that in games that are close, that could be an area that Connecticut could take advantage of. In the playoffs, they put every team through a difficult game. You can always count on Connecticut to play you tough. In light of the fact that they have also gained experience, I believe that you should give them a slight advantage in the series. On the other hand, I believe that Caitlin and Indiana both play well. The Connecticut Sun are preparing to embark on yet another postseason voyage, which brings us to the topic of playoffs. A matchup that is identical to the very first game of the season will be the opening battle for a team that is ranked third. There is a conflict taking place right here in Connecticut between Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever. Becky Hammond was absolutely correct. Would you say that you can't possibly outscore their team? A defensive lockdown is something that you need to be able to do. Due to the fact that they are intelligent gamers, you need to be able to give them a variety of looks. They are going to pick you apart as soon as they feel they have a chance to do so. So it is necessary for us to be able to give them a variety of looks. For a period of 40 minutes, we are required to remain steadfast and to completely lock in. You should know that Christy has done an excellent job with that group, and they have continued to stay the course. Furthermore, a great deal of credit goes to their maturation as well as her leadership. This squad is truly putting themselves in a position to be successful in the playoffs. Their performance has been particularly strong during the break for the Olympics. This Connecticut Sun club is just one of the many contender teams that they have given a run for their money when it comes to competition. The Sun prevailed in the series by a score of 3-1. 3 of those contests, on the other hand, did take place before the Olympic break when Indiana was still trying to figure out what it wanted to do with itself. Nevertheless, Connecticut is fortunate in that this is a clash that will take place at their own stadium. Second, they are also entering the playoffs on a positive note, having completed their regular season with a victory over Chicago, which was their final game of the season. They have a great deal of experience with the way that this Indiana club operates. That being said, it ought to be an intriguing matchup. Since I am being completely honest, I believe that this 3-on-6 matchup is going to be the most exciting of all of them altogether. Caitlin Clark, on the other hand, is going to be put to the test. Once again, it is highly probable that she will be protected by Dejanay Carrington, who performed exceptionally well when she was present for the first 2 occasions that they met. Indeed, this is going to be a matchup that is likely to be entertaining. The first game of the WNBA playoffs is scheduled to take place on Sunday, September 22nd. When teams get ready for a fierce competition to win the championship, the enthusiasm is growing as the competition gets more intense. A best-of-3 series will be used to play the first round of competition. This means that each matchup will have a minimum of 2 games guaranteed, with the possibility of a 3rd game being played. This format adds an additional element of intensity to the situation in the event that the series is deadlocked after 2 games, as teams are required to secure victory speedily in order to avoid a decisive Game 3. During this particular round, the Connecticut Sun, who are seated higher, have a significant edge over their opponents. Due to the fact that they will be playing the first 2 games at the Mohegan Sun Arena, the excitement of their home court and the backing of their fans could prove to be quite important. In the event that a Game 3 is required, the action will be moved to Gainbridge Fieldhouse in Indianapolis. Indiana. This will present an additional challenge for both teams, as the Fever will be battling for survival in front of their respective home crowds. We appreciate you watching. We will be covering all of the games that are played during the WNBA playoffs, so if you found this analysis to be enjoyable, make sure to ensure that you press the subscribe button and that you have alerts turned on. When we get into the highly anticipated showdown between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, you won't want to miss a single bit of the action. In particular, you won't want to miss anyone. In-depth analysis, highlights, and all the most recent information will be provided, so stay tuned.